Alright, so this is the final video on interest, and so we've done two simple interest problems, and now we're going to look at what a compound interest problem looks like. And just kind of remind you, if you forgot from the first video, how do we know this is going to be a compound interest problem? And if you just kind of read that first sentence there, it says a $2,000 savings account and it's 4% compound interest. It'll say, remember, just right in the problem, right here, it tells you exactly that it is a compound interest. It says the actual word compound. Okay, a simple interest problem won't always say simple, but a compound interest problem will always say compound. And so, you can use that keyword there to help you decipher which one is compound and which one is simple. And so, just like with the simple interest problems, there were formulas, and so there are also formulas for the compound interest problems as well. So let's look at those. And here's your Ames reference sheet again, and in the same spot down here, you'll look. Here are our simple interest formulas, and right below those are our compound interest formulas. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this formula down right here onto this side over here. So let me just go ahead and copy it down. It says a big A, so A equals P times 1 plus R over N raised to the N times T power. Okay, so we got a couple different letters there. We should know what most of them mean. The A, if you forget, is the total amount after time T. So the total amount earned after a certain amount of time. The T is the principal, and that's the amount of money you're starting with. The R is the interest rate. That's usually a percentage. Time is the number of years, and so the new letter here is N, and so N is the number of times compounded per year. Okay, and we'll get to that in a second here. So let's write down what we know. What is our P? So our P here, principal, it says a $2,000 savings account, so that right there is going to be our principal, so $2,000 earns 4%, so 4% is going to be our interest rate. Okay, compounded twice a year. So if you remember what N stood for, N was the number of times you compounded your interest. So how many times did we compound our interest? We did it twice a year. So how many times? Twice. 2 times. Okay, if it says once a year, it would be 1. If it said 3 times a year, it would be 3. If it said, sometimes it might say it like quarterly. Well, quarterly means 4. Okay, if it said, every single day, well, how many days are in a year? There's 365. It would be 365 with year. So the number of times you compound per year is your N. So we do it twice a year here, so our N is 2. Okay, and then the last thing we need to know is our T. And so our T is how many years we're going to have our money in this account. And it says 1 year. Okay, so 1 year is going to be our T. Okay, and so basically now we just got to plug these in. We'll use maybe a different color here so it doesn't be the same color the whole time. And, so we have A equals T, our principal, which is 2,000, times 1 plus R, our rate, which is 0.04, over Rn, which is 2, raised to the 2 times 1. So raised to the N times Q, so it's going to be 2 times 1. Okay, and so there's our formula. And if we had a calculator our name, this would be a very simple problem because we could just quickly enter this into a calculator and we'd be done. But we don't have a calculator our name, so let me kind of show you how you want to go about solving this step by step. So I'll use a different color for each step. So we're going to look at it. We're going to have A equals here. That's what we're trying to find out. That's how much money we earn. We'll leave this 2,000 alone for right now. We'll do that at the end. And we'll do 1 plus this. And so we want to figure out, what does this equal? What does 0.04 divided by 2? Okay, and so one way to figure that out would be to divide like this. Okay, 0.04 divided by 2. Okay, another way you can think about it, like what is half of 0.04? And that would be 0.2. But anyways, you could just kind of plug it in like this. 2 goes into 0.04 how many times? Well, 2 goes into 0 times. 2 goes into 4 2 times. Okay, and then 2 times that, you would have 0 left over. So, and there's our decimal right there, so our answer would be 0.02. So we have this right here is 0.02. Half of 0.04, 2 divided by 0.04, I'll get you 0.02. Okay, and then 2 times 1 is 2, right? So that's going to be a 2 up there. All right, let's go to the next line here. So we're going to have A equals 2,000. 1 plus 0.02, well, this is one way to think about that is that's just going to be right 1.02, right? You have a 1 and you have 0.02 and you add them together, you put them together and you get 1.02. So this is raised to the second power. Okay, and so this is where it gets kind of tricky, or if you're not very good at multiplying decimals, you might get thrown off here. And so right now we got 2,000 times 1.02 to the second power. And so if you remember your order of operations, you have to do your exponents first, right? You get your parentheses and your exponents. So before we can multiply these two together, we need to do 1.02 squared. And so again, what that's going to equal is 1.02 times 1.02. And if this was 1.02 to the third power, right? Let's say n was 3, then you would have to do 1.02 times 1.02 times 1.02. You have to multiply it by 3 times. So hopefully you don't have to do more than 2, otherwise you get kind of difficult. So we're going to multiply these together. We're squaring it. We're doing this part of the problem right now. So 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 1 is 2. All right, 0. So we got a 0 here. These are all going to be 0, so I'm not even going to write it, and I'm just going to, add another 0 for that third one. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 1 is 1. Okay? And we will worry about the decimals here in a second. So we got 0 plus 4 is 4. 0 plus 0 is 0. 2 plus 2 is 4. 0 and 1. Okay, and so, how many decimal places do we have to move? We got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got to move this decimal place right here. 4th place is 1, 2, 3, 4. And so what we basically get is 1.04. Okay, and that's where we're going to round to. So let me get a different color here. So A equals 2,000. 1.02 squared, we just figured out, is this answer. So that's going to be 1.04. That's what I'm going to round it to. And so the last step here is to multiply these two together. So, let me see if I can get some more space here. We're going to do 2,000 times 1.04. Okay? And so I'm just going to multiply these together. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 0 is 0. We're going to have 3 zeros. 4 times 2 is 8. Okay? 0, this is going to be 0. That second line, add the 0. Is 0 times everything is just going to be 0. So I'm just going to go to the third line, the third number, and put another 0. And then 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times another 0 is 0. 1 times another 0 is 0. 1 times 2 is 2. And so if we add these together, we get a bunch of zeros here. 0, 0, 0. 8 plus 0 is 8. 0 and 2. And then how many decimal places do we have to move? We have to move 2. So we're here. We go 1, 2. And so our answer, if we multiply these together, is going to be A equals 2080.00. And so that right there is our final answer. And so what does that tell us? What are we trying to find here again? We're saying how much will the savings account be worth after 1 year? So if we put $2,000 in a savings account that earns 4% compound interest, after 1 year we'll have gained $80, or our total amount will be $2,080. Okay? So that's a compound interest problem. The thing about these guys is the formula is pretty simple. You just plug in the values. What gets difficult is multiplying all these decimals together. You really got to go take your time and make sure you're not making mistakes, because on the Ames test, they're going to make the answers real close to it. Like one answer might be 2,080, the other one might be 2,080. and 81. And if you don't multiply closely or don't take your time when you're multiplying, you might guess the wrong answer or get the wrong answer. Okay, so that was the final video on interest. Hopefully it makes a little bit more sense now, and hopefully you can pass your assessment.